Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac. Tonight, our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Sacramento Kings. And let me just tell you right off the bat. The Cavs had a couple of opportunities tonight. First was a chance to draw even in the season series. That's right. It was a revenge game, an opportunity for the Cavaliers to go back and get back against a team that, frankly, won a game that they should not have won, that the Cavaliers should not have given them opportunity to win not very long ago. And here's the thing. That was far from the biggest thing up for grabs today. No, sir. Today was shaping up to be a special day, my friends. Today marked one of the biggest opportunities this team has had in some time. Today, the Cavaliers had the rare chance to clinch the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, something that they have only done, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 4 or 5 other times throughout their entire 55-year history. Well, that did not happen. The Cavaliers just absolutely gave an opportunity, a golden opportunity away. Gave an opportunity away, and in multiple ways. We're going to talk about a number of ways on how that happened here shortly. But I just got to say, man, I just got to get this off my chest. The sky is not falling. Cleveland will be just fine. There's another opportunity to clinch that number one seed come Tuesday. So for anybody who is coming here to let loose and to preach on how the Cavaliers' downfall is imminent or how they're going to lose in the first or second round, this is not the place for that. There are probably many other outlets. I'm not going to do that. What I will do is try and be realistic, right? The Cavaliers had a very good opportunity to close this one out. They had a very good opportunity to clinch that number one seed. They had a very good opportunity to draw even with this Sacramento Kings team. And then for the rest of the season, rest the rest of their players. Something that they would have been able to do had they won tonight. Now they have to continue to throw their starters out there. They got to continue to put their rotation pieces out there and hope that nobody gets injured, right? That's the biggest thing to me. Secure that number one seed and stop having to play your rotation players so that you're not risking further injury. We already had one scare tonight with Donovan Mitchell, and that one could have, it was one of those make or break things, right? If you lose Donovan Mitchell, your chances of winning the NBA title are basically zero at that point. You're going to need Donovan Mitchell to beat the Bostons, to beat the New Yorks, to beat the OKCs of the world. You're going to need all of your guys out there. And I was happy to see familiar faces return tonight, right? Ty Jerome, who has been out after the last 5 games, he came back tonight. Dean Wade, he played tonight. You had your full complement of players. And there are a variety of reasons why this game went wrong. I know people are going to complain about the refs, about the way that this game was officiated. Then that's certainly a talking point, something that deserves a little bit of emphasis to be put on. But the Cavaliers, overall, one of the biggest problems that they had tonight was, one, they just could not stop. They could not stop Sacramento from 3-point distances. They drilled 42.4% of their triples on 33 attempts. So that means they knocked down 14 trays. A lot of them came at the end of the shot clock. Some of them were miraculous makes. I can think of more than a few of those, especially the ones coming from DeMar DeRozan. But a big issue, I'm going to call it a spade. I'm going to call a spade a spade. I'm going to be blunt here in ways that you guys probably have not heard me be in a long time. Kenny Atkinson deserves a huge chunk of blame tonight. I'm sorry. I am so sorry to say that. This is a man that I have continuously believed in all season long. And in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to continue to believe in him, right? He's led us to the third season in Cavaliers history in which the team has won 60-plus games. That is no small feat. He will likely be coach of the year, if not in the running for that. But at the end of the day, I feel like there was a big failure in today's game, and that was with the rotations. I love Sam Merrill. I'm a huge fan of Sam Merrill. Sam Merrill has been a better player, a better defender, a better playmaker, a better shooter than I could have ever imagined him being when the Cavaliers acquired him. And you know what? He has gone through stretches this season where he's just shot the ball so terribly, but added in other ways. There were points during the season where his shot has been on fire. We've seen games like that come at various points throughout the season. And then there are games in which his defensive chops are on full display. But I'll tell you this, Kenny Atkinson, he overplayed Sam Merrill. he overplayed Sam Merrill. Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade, specifically Isaac, in my opinion, he played so damn well in that second quarter. He was key to getting the Cavaliers really, really back into the game. I mean, there's a point in that second quarter where the Cavaliers went on this just exceptional run, and Isaac was at the forefront of that. He was the source of that. And in the span of 61 seconds in the game, Isaac put pressure on the defense, drove to the basket, scored. The next offensive possession, he drilled a triple. The possession following that, he pulled down an offensive rebound and put it back in. And he scored 7 points in a span of 61 seconds. And this is also factoring in the defense that he is capable of playing, the turnovers that he is forcing, the pressure that he is putting on players at the point of attack, whether it be DeRozan or Levine or anybody else out there that's capable of cooking you. Instead of having Isaac Okoro out there in that third quarter, we got a heavy, and I mean absolutely heavy dose of Sam Merrill. I have no problem with Sam Merrill. I'll just say that. I have no problem with that. But at the end of the day, I just feel like at certain points, Kenny leans on specific players in the wrong moments at times. And I just feel like Merrill being leaned upon in that third quarter, Merrill he overstayed his welcome at certain points throughout this game. And I'm not going to point the loss truly at Sam. I'm not going to put it on Sam. I'm going to put this more so on Kenny because he puts them in these unenviable positions where Sam is getting cooked by the wings. And look, again, what we have come to realize about Sam is that he is a much better defender of guards than he is wings. Can he hold his own from time to time against larger or taller wings? Certainly. We've seen him do that all season long. But there are certain matchups where he just gets outplayed or he's outmatched or he just does not have the defensive capacity to overcome the mismatch that is being thrown his way. And you know what? Him not being able to defend at times makes him, you got to pull him at a certain point. You got to pull him. When you realize that it's not working, when you realize as a coach that it is not working, you gotta switch it up and you got to put Isaac in there. I will say this time and time again. Isaac Okoro is the best point of attack defender on the team. If not, if you want to throw DeAndre Hunter in there, if you believe DeAndre Hunter is that guy, sure. I still believe it's Isaac Okoro. From a point of attack standpoint, Isaac is your guy, especially against some of these wings that we see in today's age. He just makes a real impact out. And I just did not feel like Kenny adjusted accordingly. And I just felt like it was way, way, way too lackadaisical. The problem with the Sam lineups is that you're playing Sam at small forward way more frequently than any other lineup that he is in. Sam, I don't know if you guys realize this. Sam has played 74% of his minutes at small forward this season compared to 21% of his minutes at shooting guard. And that's not crazy. It's not outrageous because the numbers do actually look very, very good from an offensive standpoint. But the problem is on the defensive end in very specific matchups, Sam can be taken advantage of, and that was the case tonight. It's why a lot of people believe that come the playoffs, Sam could lose minutes or be unplayable. Do I believe that? No. I think Sam, he gives enough, he contributes enough from an offensive standpoint and from a defensive standpoint against guards that he will still be played. The problem is that you're playing him at small forward alongside two other guards, that either being Ty and Garland or Don and Ty. And in some cases, you're playing Sam next to Don and DG. You're playing him in too many lineups as the small forward. To me, I was going to say this. Kenny has to realize that in specific matchups, if the shit is not working, you got to go away from it. And that, to me, is what happened tonight in the Sam minutes. I'm gonna keep it 100. That is what happened tonight for the vast majority of Sam's minutes. Sam did not score tonight. He was 0 of 3 from the field, pulled down 2 rebounds, blocked 1 shot, was -4 on the night. Not truly terrible compared to some of the other plus minuses that the team has. And plus minus by itself is finicky anyways because it's a team stat for the most part. But Sam, the minutes were not minuting tonight. They were not good minutes from Sam Merrill. And I think Kenny has to realize that when the rotation that you have out there with Sam at that small forward position, when it's not working, you got to go away from it. DeAndre Hunter is another player who I felt like did not have the best game from a defensive standpoint. From an offensive standpoint, he scored 11 points, pulled down 2 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. That's defensive stats, obviously, but 4 of 9 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3-point distance. He adds a lot to the table from a pure point production standpoint as an offensive creator at the wing. That is something the Cavaliers have missed for a long time. I'm glad they went out there and they acquired him. But to me, the problem is that the Cavaliers at times they become they become over reliant on specific things, right? If the defense is not working at certain points, and Hunter, mind you, as somebody is pointing out in the chat, was a minus 28 tonight. Again, you have to take the plus minus with a grain of salt because it is a team stat at the end of the day, but it does not put him in or paint him in the most favorable light, right? It just does not. He did not have a good game from a defensive standpoint tonight. Neither did Sam. Neither did a number of other players out there, but the pure impact. I just feel like Dean and Okoro should have played more tonight. Dean only played 3 minutes and 29 seconds. And I get Dean is just coming back off of illness and whatnot. I just question. I just question why Kenny decided to go with the types of rotations that he did tonight. To me, that was just a heavy reason why they lost the game. Damn, the officiating, that was a big piece of it. As the Cavaliers, they shot 19 free throw attempts to Sacramento's 22, and there was a number of missed calls and opportunities from the refs tonight, I feel. But somewhere else, the Cavaliers obviously cost themselves, and this has to be called out, right? They went of 11 of 19 from the charity stripe. They missed 8 free throws. They left 8 points on the board as a result. That is 57.9%. That is terrible. That is absolutely terrible. The execution from the charity stripe needs to be a heavy focus going into next practice. You got guys like Evan Mobley going 2 of 5. That will not cut it. Even worse, Donovan Mitchell was 4 of 7 from the charity stripe. That is 57.1%. As your leader, as your superstar, as the best player on your team, that is not going to cut it. You got to be better. You're leaving too many points on the board. It's a 7-point loss. The Cavs left 8 points on the board. That easily makes a huge difference. That makes a huge difference in the game. I just got to say, to me, I think that the Cavaliers have a problem with mental focus at times, and it shows in certain ways. Like Kenny, his ability with rotations and not adjusting at certain points at a time, like the Sam Merrill stuff. Yeah, that's another thing. But on the court, sometimes these Cavs, they just have a real issue at times with having mental lapses. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say in that. To me, obviously, you got to give credit where credit is due with the Sacramento Kings because, like, they came in as 10th, if I'm not mistaken, in the Western Conference. They are fighting for their playoff lives to stay and hold that last play-in spot, and they executed. They took advantage tonight, and you gotta give them their fair share. You gotta give them their props and credit where credit is due. I will say that. So I'm not going to take anything away from their win tonight. As you saw, the modest bonus, huge reason why this Kings team was able to just constantly bully the Cavs at certain points is he would finish with 27 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and was 11 of 16 from the field, including 1 of 2 from 3-point range. He did turn the ball over 7 times. That's not nothing, but he added way more than he gave it away, right? And his interior presence, his ability to get to work in that low post area, his ability to function as an offensive hub is always something that's been underappreciated in today's NBA, where you have some big names in the front court like Nikola Jokic or Joel Embiid, just Anthony Davis, Evan Mobley. You have a lot of names out here that overshadow Sabonis, and rightfully so most of the time, but Sabonis is still a very, very good player. And he's a physical guy out there, very, very, very strong guy out there. And he makes his presence felt. It's a huge reason why he pulls down so many rebounds on the season. It's insane the level of work that this man puts in on the glass as he is averaging 14 rebounds this season. 14 rebounds per game. That is pure insanity to me. So again, I got to give credit where credit's due. got to give credit where credit's due. They came to play tonight. So I'm not going to take anything away from what they were able to do. All I know is that Cleveland squandered a perfectly good opportunity to close out the season for the starters, right? To close out the season for the rotation. Because had they won tonight, had they clinched that number 1 seed, you can bet your sweet ass that they're going to start resting players left and right. You're probably going to see most of these guys pulled, right? You're probably going to see most, if not all of them, pulled as they try and get themselves ready for the playoffs. You don't want anybody to get injured. And you got some time because of the play-in tournament, but this was too good of an opportunity to waste. I think they do it on Tuesday, but at the end of the day, you never know what can happen in the NBA in terms of injuries. So you got to take care of the opportunities that you're afforded. And tonight, that just did not happen. The Cavaliers as a team shot 52.3%. Normally, that should be enough to win you a game. However, they shot a combined 26.3% from three-point distance. Let's not ignore that. That's pretty damn shitty. You got Evan Mobley going 0-4. Evan has been pretty damn good from three-point range this season. Give him his credit, but he was absolutely atrocious tonight. Donovan Mitchell, even worse, 1 of 6. Darius Garland, 1 of 7. When your backcourt goes a collective 2 of 13, probably not going to go well for you. And Darius was just, 9 points, 4 of 13 from the field. That is not going to cut it. You need him to be better in important games like this. Donovan Mitchell, 19 points, 7 of 16 from the field. Again, 1 of 6 in three-point range. Donovan was key after having that injury scare, after apparently stepping on Keon Ellis's foot. A very weird situation in a transition opportunity. Re-entered the game, and he had an opportunity to kind of lead this Cavs team back. And that's exactly what he was looking like he was doing, right? That's exactly what was happening. But it did not, it wasn't enough to overcome the Kings' push and drive to win this game. And credit where credit is due. And so, as I said at the start of this one, I'm not worried at all. I think people are going to use this game, especially the national media. They're going to use this game as an opportunity to pile on the Cavaliers and call them pretenders and, whatever else people love to throw out after a loss like this, but they'll be okay in the grand scheme of things. They are now 18-6 post All-Star break, which is still among the top 5, top 6 records in the NBA post All-Star. But again, to miss opportunities like this, it hurts. It stinks. So in the moment, I'm pissed off. In the moment, I want to place blame here and there and there and there. But at the end of the day, they'll be okay. But this is just such a missed opportunity that it just pisses you off at the end of the day. But yeah, they'll be okay. They'll be okay. I can't get over the fact that they squandered this one. But the larger problems I feel like can be fixed. The Kenny rotational issues. I think he's been experimenting a lot lately, but I do think it's time to try and tamper that down, especially in big games like this. And yes, make no mistake, despite this coming against the 10th seeded team in the West, it was still a big game. Not only because you had an opportunity to draw even with them because they beat you the last time you played them, but also because you had the opportunity to clinch that number 1 seed. Oh, and something else that people are probably not going to mention is the fact that the Cavaliers have effectively lost the battle in regards to setting the franchise win-loss record. That can no longer occur, if I'm not mistaken. After losing their 16th game of the season, all they can do at this point is tie. And yes, in the grand scheme of things, that may not ultimately matter too much to anybody who watches this team or anybody who plays for this team. And obviously, you want to shoot for a title. But just being a fan, a pure spectator, a pure observer, I thought it would have been really, really cool to set that franchise record in a season in which, 1, you don't have LeBron. 2, you have a real opportunity to win a title, and the window is right there, right open. That would have been just the cherry on top of that regular season. But yeah, they squandered that opportunity as well. So now, at best, all they can do is tie that record with, if I'm not mistaken, 4 games left to play. They are now 62-16, and they got 4 games left on the season, if my math is correct. I mean, again, I'm not the best at math, but I think it all adds up. Again, remember the best record in franchise history is 66-16. That's the best they can finish this season. That blows. Not going to lie. Sucks. I wanted that to happen this year, but as long as they clinch in this next game and they are able to leave out without anybody being injured, I'm good. I just really, really wanted it to end tonight. And I think that's a sentiment that many people probably echo, especially after watching Donovan Mitchell go down with that injury scare. I'm glad he returned. I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad Ty's back. I'm glad Dean's okay. I'm glad nobody suffered any serious injuries. But all that I hope is that when they go out and they play Chicago, that they'll be okay. And I think that they will. They'll clinch it, man. They'll clinch. That's all that I'm gonna have to keep telling people, as I know there will be a ton of overreactions to what occurred tonight, but it'll be all right. It'll be okay. That's really all that there is to it. That is really all that there is to say about this one as an individual game. Credit to the Sacramento Kings. Credit to Zach LaVine, who finished with 37 tonight on a very efficient 15 of 21 from the field, including 7 of 11 from three-point distance, which is just absolutely bonkers because LaVine, LaVine, as we know, he's been a very, very good three-point marksman throughout the duration of his career. He came in tonight shooting 43.4% from three-point range on this season. He has been an absolute sniper this year when he elects to take that shot. And there were some crazy makes tonight on that end of the floor as the Cavaliers just failed to convert on their opportunities. But again, you got to give credit where it's due. And they were absolutely cooking tonight. I just hope that the Cavaliers learn from this one. I hope that they are able to finish things out and on a high note in their next game here on Tuesday. And we can all look forward to that. Into the chat we go. JC says, bro, had it ready. I did, man. I usually have most of these queued up. I have to change around a couple of things depending upon the flow of the game, how the Cavaliers win or lose, or what specific thing is occurring. But yeah, I usually have them queued up. HJ17 Gaming says, I'm sorry, but Kenny's rotations tonight has to be criticized. Dude refused to play Dean, who would have been perfect for DeRozan, and Okoro was a plus 22, but got less minutes than fucking Sam. I agree, man. I put a large portion of the blame on Kenny in regards to the rotations tonight. I do feel like Sam was overplayed. I do feel like Okoro and Wade should have both played more. That's all I can say. Joshua Moore says, I know Sacramento is a little more motivated at this juncture, and Mitchell's stuff shook up vibes, but this was a terrible loss. I do think as far as losses go, this is right up there. I don't think it's the most terrible that they've had, but it is a squandered opportunity nevertheless. Brilliant damage test. Kenny has to coach better in third quarter. Agreed. Played Sam way too much in that third. Should have went to Okoro. Therapy Entertainment says, perfect example is why nobody should ever take Cleveland serious in the playoffs in any sport. I can't go that far. We're not even in the playoffs. Derpy, you gotta admit to yourself, there's nothing that they could do down the stretch. And honestly, there's nothing they could do in the regular season that would change people's minds one way or another. We've seen them have excellent regular season success as of the last 3 or 4 years, but they failed to truly impress people in the postseason. That's where it has to be done. So regardless if they win or lose down the stretch here, it's not going to change people's minds. They got to do it in the playoffs. Skeletor says, beat the Bulls on Tuesday. I think they will. JDS says, defense wins championships, and this defense is too up and down, and we still can't defend wing-type guys. I think we can defend wing-type guys. I think that you saw that they could not do that because they did not play the correct guys to do that. You did not play Okoro enough. You did not play Wade enough. Hunter did kind of get abused tonight in that regard, but I think they certainly are capable. They just didn't play the guys best suited for that job. Provided number one says turnovers and missed free throws, points off turnovers was ridiculous. Absolutely. That's another talking point, right? When you look at points off of turnover tonight, it does not point a good picture, a good portrait for the Cavaliers, as Sacramento scored 37 fucking points off of turnover to Cleveland's 21. Now, Cleveland turned the ball over 16 times tonight to Sacramento's 14. But how the hell does Sacramento get 37 points total and Cleveland gets 21? How? Because they converted on those opportunities, whether that be in transition or whether they actually drilled their three-point makes. It despite having 2 more turnovers, or two fewer turnovers, rather. They scored 16 more points off those turnovers. It's just pure insanity. So credit where credit is due. But yeah, absolutely ridiculous. And we already talked about the points that were left off the box score from the charity stripe. They missed 8 free throws tonight. John Matias says, fuck around. We end up in the second seed. I don't think that happens. They'll win on Tuesday. They'll lock it up. He also says, we have to hope Indiana rests guys. Yeah, I think that's I think that you got some tough opposition coming up, right? You really have some tough opposition coming up in both these Indiana games down the stretch here. That's a team that is obviously fighting for seeding and somebody you're going to have to watch out for, and you got to play them twice. But you got this Bulls game right before you hit Indiana, so take care of business in Indiana and lock up that number 1 seed and start resting your own guys. William Hooper says, pretty egregious mess up by the refs on that 24-second violation, then having the nerve to call Mitch out of bounds. Thing was obvious. I agree. Horrible job by the refs in that regard. I thought that they were terrible tonight, but I don't put the entirety of the blame on them. Nicotine says, blatantly rigged game. How the fuck did they count that Levine shot? I mean, we can say what we want to say, but Cleveland did themselves no favors. You're not often going to win a game where you shoot as terribly as the Cavs shot from 3-point distance. They shot 26.3% from range. They took 38 total triples and only hit 10. And then on the defensive end, they just couldn't stop anything from in that regard. John Monty also says Merrill did nothing. Rod Young says Kenny Atkinson was really passive tonight. I would have left Okoro out there instead of Strus. Levine was cooking Strus. Yeah, I think that's an obvious complaint tonight too. I think Sam, we've already talked about Sam being out there too long, but Strus as well. Razor 531 says the Cavs did horrible on that third quarter, and they are still unable to guard the perimeter well. The Cavs have not been playing well since February. Something needs to change. So to me, I look at it this way. Cavs are obviously not playing as efficiently as they were pre-All-Star break. But post All-Star break, they've still played very, very good basketball relative to the rest of the NBA. They're 18-6 post All-Star after tonight's loss. The problem is that they set a very high personal standpoint. They set a very high standpoint from a Cavalier standpoint in regards to how efficient they can play. And they are not meeting that standard as juxtaposed to what they did pre-All-Star. That's where I'm at with them. I think that they have lost some very winnable games, tonight included. I think that they have stumbled their way to some wins that they probably should have lost. I think that's fair to say. I think that they don't look like the same team that they were pre-All-Star, but I am ultimately not worried. I think a lot of the things that they've been doing are fixable. Sans the inefficient shooting. They're always due for regression in that regard, but not to this degree. I just think they're cooling off in specific games too often, but I'm not ultimately worried. I'm not worried enough to panic like a lot of other people out there are, but it is worth the question. I don't think that they have not been playing. I just think that relative to the play that they had earlier on in the season, they're not playing up to that standard. But to win 18 out of 24, that's still pretty damn good. And I know that wins and losses don't tell the whole story, but at the end of the day, you still got to play well enough to win. Uriah Cruz says things changed when DG and Allen came in for Evan Don. They came in with no injury. They just let up. Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't good all the way around, man. It wasn't good all the way around. I just think that from a defensive standpoint, guys were getting cooked. And from an offensive standpoint, the Cavaliers couldn't knock down shit, including the free throws. Just wasn't good. Just was not good. Nicotine says Sam must have some dirt on Kenny to be playing this many minutes. Sam is a good player, man. I don't think that's the case. Kenny put Sam in unenviable positions. That's all it really boils down to. And this is not all the time. But again, the man is playing 74% of his minutes at small forward this year. He is playing in many of his lineups are coming with two other guards, whether that be Don and Ty or Darius and Don or Darius and Ty. They're playing a lot of lineups together. He has not often played the shooting guard. He's playing less than 25% of his minutes at the shooting guard position this season, 21 to be exact. I don't love that. I get why Kenny has done it. I get why in the trade-offs and the mobility and gravity that it grants you And Sam's very good as an off-ball mover, whether that be as a cutter or an off-screen shooter, or as a guy that will go out there and draw the defensive attention, or as a secondary or tertiary playmaker, because we've seen Sam make some very good passes this season. But you're doing him a disservice on the defensive end. You're giving it away on the defensive end a lot of nights. And sometimes he can overcome that. Sometimes the Cavaliers as a team can overcome that and you can mask it. But there are certain matchups, certain games in which you have to just adjust in real time when you're seeing that it's not working. And I think that Kenny failed to do that tonight. And I think that's okay to point out. HJ17 Gaming says, Sam becoming the new Dieng is kind of funny, though, not going to lie. But just have Wade or Hunter start and have Max take Merrill's minutes. I still see the value in Merrill. I don't think Merrill will be benched. Do I think that the question in regards to how much he plays applies? Yes. I think that's still a very relevant question. I think as the playoffs begin, I think you're going to see a couple things. I think you see Hunter's minutes increase. I think you see Wade's minutes increase. And I think you see Isaac's minutes increase. Now, the question at that point becomes, well, who do they come from? Is it going to be pulled from everybody? As we know that Kenny has tried to divvy up minutes very, very equally this season, or depending upon the hot hand or who's playing well at a given point in time. I do think that some of those minutes are going to be pulled from Sam. I do think that some of those minutes could be pulled from Max. And that's just the start, right? I don't know what the rotation will ultimately be, but I can only I can only look. I can only look and speculate. That's all I can do. Miggy Cardo says the elephant in the room is Garland has not been anything near what he was in the first half. He has reverted back to a lot of last year's bad habits. I think that in a certain sense that I don't want to completely lean in that direction, but Garland has obviously not been himself post All-Star break, and it hasn't been a pretty sight for him in many of these games from an efficiency standpoint. It hasn't been great. Right. And you can say that from an efficiency standpoint, purely, especially from beyond the arc, about a number of these Cavaliers. And obviously, Darius is, he's right. He's right in that mix in terms of inefficiency. Post All-Star, Darius is averaging, if I'm not mistaken, 17.8 points. He is dishing out 6.7 assists. He is turning the ball over 2.6 times per game. And he is shooting just 39.9% from the floor, which is terrible, including 33.1% from three-point distance, which is equally terrible. He's not been the same. Many of the Cavaliers, from an efficiency standpoint, have not been the same. Or am I ultimately worried? Do I think that he is not going to be the same type of clutch player that he was earlier on in the season? No, I think he'll be fine. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I wasn't at least a little bit concerned from an efficiency standpoint, because you want guys heating up and not decelerating from an efficiency standpoint at this point in time. D. Jackson says DeRozan and Levine was hitting shot after shot. They were, man. Again, Levine went 7 of 11 from three-point range tonight on his way to 37 points. It was ugly to watch him do that. Some of them were just really good makes, but he was cooking too. So credit where credit is due. Floyd Phillips II says coaching isn't coaching through the tape. He's resting guys and coaching at half speed, which is why Cavs aren't matching the intensity. Cavs aren't seasoned vets. Coach through the tape. To me, I think that Kenny, this is a fairly good estimation of what has occurred, right? I think that Kenny is not playing the rotations that are required at certain points throughout the games to close out the season. And tonight was obviously one of those games. D. Jackson says, so the Kings swept us this season, right? Yeah, they play 2 games. It's a Western Eastern, series, right? So not in the same conference. So you're not playing more than twice. They swept us. Hate to say that. D. Jackson says, so how do we still lock up the number 1 seed or what? Just win on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, against the Bulls, and they clinch number 1. But they can no longer set the regular season win record. They can only tie it. Matthew Ellis says, don't understand why they trash as teams play so fucking hard like it's game 7 when they're not going anywhere. Come on, Matthew. Ultimately, deep down, you know why this is. This is a pros league, man. It's a pros league. Everybody is out there playing hard for a reason. Not only just because they get paid to do it, but because of competitive pride, right? you have more to play for if you are in the position that the Kings are, obviously being 10th in the West and fighting to stay in the play-in. But at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge that it sometimes seeding doesn't matter as long as you get in and you get hot at the right time, right? If you watch the NFL, you've seen numerous teams do this. Hell, you've seen the Giants do it a couple of times in the past, since the 2000s, right? You've seen numerous teams who are not the number one or not the number two go in and win the finals, and you see it in other sports as well. It's one of those things. You always play your hardest because you never know who's watching, especially down the stretch here. The Kings are not in the same position as the Cavaliers, but by no means does that mean that they shouldn't go out there and play hard. And the Cavaliers are getting the kitchen sink thrown at them, and I know you know that. So we just gotta come in with that understanding and not fall victim to what a lot of people would deem a trap game. This is an excellent opportunity, and the Cavaliers just gave it away. Mr. King 562 says Sam is a G League player, saying he is as good as a stretch. I'm sorry, but anybody who says this, anybody who agrees with Sam being a G Leaguer, I question your basketball integrity. I question your basketball IQ if you think Sam is a G League player. The problem is that Sam has just played too much in certain times. I hope you understand that. I hope you realize that. I hope you really don't believe that, because Sam is not a bad player. He's just being put in a bad position at times. It's very akin to Isaac Okoro being overplayed a position, right? Where Isaac has to play the four at times and can be beaten against specific matchups who are taller and bigger and stronger than him. Merrill is playing 74% of his minutes at the small forward position. It is not always going to align up for him. Does that mean he's a bad player? No. There's a reason why Kenny is playing him. And Kenny and Sam, for the most part, Sam has been a very valuable player this season. He just does not always look the best on the defensive end. Not a G League player. Please understand that. Nicotine says players see Sam guarding them and feel disrespected. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But he's not a bad player. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. John Batia says definitely a Kenny problem, not feeling his players very well. I think so. That's fair to say. Evan Bin says sweep. Credit where it's due. Kings swept the Cavs. Cavs deserve to lose tonight for the way that they played. HJ 17 Game says I just don't see a series where Sam can be more impactful than Okoro or Wade on the floor. The defense is the only issue currently, and the Cavs have so many options offensively. This within itself is going to be matchup dependent. You can play him against the Knicks. You can play him against the Pistons, in my opinion. You can play him against the Pacers in certain, you just don't want to overplay him. You don't want to overplay him against Indiana. You don't want to overplay him against Boston. You don't want to overplay him against any of these teams. The problem is, what is Kenny going to value most come the postseason? Is it going to be defense? Is it going to be guys who are good at the point of attack? Is it going to be guys who can go out there and shut the water off? If it is, then Dean, Isaac, and Hunter are all going to see substantial minutes increases. That's all I got to say in regards to that. Matthew Ellis says, are you guys worried? Because I'm not as annoyed as we I just annoyed. Fuck, we lose to trash ass teams. Game doesn't matter. We just need to win against Bulls. I think that is a sentiment that we all agree with, man. That's something that we all agree with. In the grand scheme of things, I'm not worried. I'm just pissed off because the Cavaliers let an excellent opportunity go. Excellent opportunity go. That's all it boils down to. D Jackson says, Mac, why do all these YouTube bloggers keep saying the Celtics will win it all? Because we've seen the Celtics produce. That's what it boils down to. We have seen Boston do what they need to do come the playoffs. A lot of people are saying that the Boston is coasting this season and they have the ability to play at a higher level, and that may very well be true. And at the end of the day, they are the champions. That's why it's happening. That's why this is occurring. That's why people don't believe Cleveland is the team that will emerge from the Eastern Conference. They're battle tested. They are proven. They have a title. That's all it is. When the Cavaliers earn the respect of people, it'll be because they also become battle tested. That's it. They just got to do it in the playoffs. As I've said on the last couple of streams, really the last couple of weeks, there was really nothing the Cavaliers could do during these last couple of games that was going to sway public opinion one way or another. Nothing they could have done would have made people feel like they are more equipped to beat Boston or to win a title. And nothing, nothing they could do in a good standpoint, right? No amount of winning streaks, no amount of offensive firepower or defensive acumen probably would have made people feel like they could just magically beat Boston come the playoffs. They just got to do it. That's all it really boils down to. John Bontia says, I believe we play Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, 90% chance. I do too, man. I do too. I think that it is going to require, obviously, Cleveland get past some of these foes that they're going to have to face. And it's going to require that Boston does the same. But I do think that still a huge opportunity for them to play each other in the Eastern Conference Finals. But we got to take it one game at a time, one round at a time, one step at a time. And I think they'll be okay. John V says many games down the stretch have exposed some concerns. That's fair. Rebounding has been absolute atrocious at times, although they're in the top 10 in terms of rebounding post All-Star break. It just doesn't look like it. It's odd. It's the weirdest occurrence to me that the Cavaliers have managed to to look lackluster in that regard. I don't understand it. And then the perimeter shot making from a team standpoint has been very, very underwhelming in terms of efficiency. Post All-Star break, the Cleveland Cavaliers have been piss poor from beyond the arc. It is nothing like their pre-All-Star break selves where they were shooting 39.3% from three-point distance. Post All-Star, this team is shooting 35.7% entering today. Well, now that's after today's game. They're 18-6. That's great. Their three-point percentage has been quite pedestrian, 35.7%, which is 18th in the NBA. Far cry from where it was. Far cry. I think they'll be okay. I'm disappointed, but they'll get that number one seed. They'll get the number one seed. That's what matters most. Get the rest, get the number one seed, sit your guys, wait to see who you play in round one, and it'll be all right. That's probably a good place to leave it tonight and to not complain anymore on a season that's been very, very good to us. I think they'll be all right. One more. Not Mike. Mr. King 562 says, you think Spider plays Tuesday? I missed the elite ball movement. Yeah, I think that they're going to look to take care of business on Tuesday. And against Chicago, they better, because if they don't, then got a tough matchup against Indiana that follows that, where they may not have as good or as opportune a chance to do so. So, yeah, I think they do. I think he plays. And I think that they end up winning the number one seed. And we'll have to see who they play in round one. That said, as I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, now you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review. Send a screenshot of the review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you want to support the podcast in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. All we can do is just breathe. That's it. They'll be okay. Go Cavs.